Well, hello and welcome to episode 48 of the frogbitblog podcast. I've 48 episodes and I still can't say it properly. The frogbitblog podcast. That's 48 episodes, each half an hour long. So I've done 24 hours. So you know how some people binge watch Netflix documentaries and stuff like that? If you were really, really, really sad, you could actually binge listen to my podcasts for a whole 24 hours. If you really wanted to suffer. Anyway, I'll shut up and get on with the show.
The frogbitblog.
Right, so as well as Len on, I've got another fella on called Steve, who's from the Defend Dewley Hill campaign, trying to stop a local open cast mine. And to be honest, when he was on the show and speaking to him, I thought he was saying Defend Dewley Hill, and I thought it was some sort of release a political prisoner campaign, but I've just looked it up, and it's actually Dewey Hill. So I've got two people on talking today, not at the same time, separately. So I don't actually have to do that much talking today, you'll be glad to hear. Which is good because I don't feel very well today. I went past some local wind turbines that are nearby us, on a hill nearby us, and they look very beautiful. And I think I've got windmill cancer. Yep, old Trumpy Pumpy now claims that the sound from wind turbines gives you cancer. I mean, does this man's idiocy know no bounds? And what's probably more worrying than him being an idiot is millions of people believe that he was sent by God to save America. I mean, how fucked up is the world that millions of people believe that Donald Trump was heaven sent? It's mental, isn't it? All right, listen to this. This is a weird story. This is the headline. Doctors discover 4 live bees feeding on tears inside woman's eye. It sounds quite poetic, that, doesn't it? And it goes on to say, when a young Taiwanese woman named He, H-E, she's called He. Oh, just let's hope that he doesn't go for gender realignment or something from she to he, and he would be he instead of she. Anyway, he took herself to a hospital this week complaining of a swollen eye, and she expected to be treated for a simple infection. Instead, the 29-year-old and her doctor were horrified to discover 4 bees living under her eyelids, feasting on her tears. Doctors at Fu Yin University Hospital in Taiwan described the incident as a world's first, having successfully managed to extract all 4 sweat bees alive from his tear duct. Well, I'm glad they got them out alive. I hope they then took them to a Taiwanese bee sanctuary, if there is such a place, but you never know. And speaking at a press conference, Dr. Hung Chi-ting said, I saw something that looked like insect legs, so I pulled them out under a microscope slowly and one at a time without damaging their bodies. He, who was referred to by her surname only, that's the surname, right, had been tending to a family member's grave and was pulling out weeds when she felt something go into her eye. At the hospital the next morning, Hung had suspected an infection, but when he looked at his eyes through a microscope, he saw tiny legs of the bees wriggling in her ducts where they were feeding off the moisture and salt of her tears. The small bees, known as Halicetidae or sweet bees, are attracted to human perspiration and are found all over the world. So be careful, listeners. They are not usually aggressive and sting only if touched. Right, I've just realised I call them sweet bees instead of sweat bees. I was probably thinking of sweet peas or something, but no, they're obviously sweat bees because they drink the sweat and the tears out of your eyes. Now, apparently, because of a newfound fame, apparently he has just signed a record contract. That's he, the woman on about, not the doctor, yeah? God, this is confusing. Anyway, he has signed a record contract to bring out 3 pop singles in quick succession. The first is called I Believe. And the follow-up single is called Beauty is in the Eye of the Beholder. And the last one will be called Before Your Eyes. Sorry about that. And while we're in that neck of the woods, the headline is China can't afford to die. China embraces eco-burials as plot prices outstrip housing. This week, 7 families laid the remains of their loved ones to rest in the Tianshu Cemetery on the outskirts of Beijing. But these were burials with a difference. The families rode in golf carts made to look like hearses and scattered flower petals over a small pot of grass, where biodegradable jars containing the ashes of their relatives were buried. The area reserved for the green burials can fit more than 2,000 of the jars buried in layers. The same area would only hold 500 or 600 traditional grave plots. Officials have been trying to promote eco-burials like these as Chinese cities run out of land to bury their dead, and price of grave plots continues to soar. There's a common saying, can't afford to die, can't afford to be buried. Very catchy. Yeah, Shanghai has been promoting sea burials. How about that? That'd be an all right way to go, wouldn't it? Others have been offering additional services to make green burials more appealing. The Anxiang Yuan Cemetery in China's eastern Zhejiang province provides an app that families can use to scan a QR code on a tree or other fixture near where their relatives are buried. So instead of attending an actual grave, families can light a digital candle or leave digital flowers for the deceased. Digital flowers sent by an app. How very modern. Len would like that sort of thing, wouldn't he?
The frogbitblog.
Right, talking of flowers, listen to this. That bit's not the plant, that bit's her talking, I think. Well, that was the sound of a sunflower singing, apparently 100 times better than Ed Sheeran, I'd say. In an amazing video clip, one woman captured the audible quivering of sunflowers using a microphone and her cell phone, and it says the results were astonishing. Now, I've listened to that, and I'm hoping it's for real, because I'm going to look a bit daft if it turns out to be fake news, aren't I? Anyway, after reading the article, it takes you to this link called damanhur.org, and this is what it says. Music of the plants, an experience where art, technology and perception intersect. An intriguing field of research that Damanhur has been studying for more than 30 years and has become known for is the field of plant perception. The latest findings in this fascinating experiment of the perceptive links between humans and the plant world is called Music of the Plants. Emotional experiences come through music of the plants, where beings that are seemingly very diverse and are able to establish a harmony and communication between them. Bloody hell. It says, from a technical point of view, the communication takes place through the transmission of very low voltage electric currents between the roots and leaves of the plant. Variations of resistivity in the plant are then translated into music through the synthesizer. Communication with the plants mainly involves the emotional sphere of both humans and plants. The plants seem to enjoy the sound and learn to produce the sounds themselves through the technical instrumentation. Over the years, many CDs have been produced featuring music made by different plants. Well, I've never heard any. Whether potted or rooted the earth, or the potted or rooted the earth. There's a spelling mistake there, but there you go. This music has been played live as well at concerts in which plants and human beings sing and play music together. Never knew that. Which sort of follows on. Last year I was talking about plants and music. I don't know if you remember, if you listen that far back, because in the 70s there was a woman called Dorothy Retalak, a scientist, who did experiments where she played different styles of music to plants. And they loved Indian music, they loved classical music, and they hated heavy metal and Ed Sheeran, which is amazing because he wasn't even born yet. But no, seriously, she did these experiments where they played music to these plants, and they moved either towards or away from different styles of music. And in one experiment, she played one long note continuously, and the plants died. I think that was an Ed Sheeran song, though, to be fair. And again, while we're on the subject of plants, there's just been huge wildflower boom in California. And it's but unfortunately been marred by loads of idiots turning up to get selfies with the flowers. Apparently someone even turned up in a friggin' helicopter and flattened loads of them. And people have been turning up, trampling on them, ripping them up, and all sorts of daft, thoughtless behaviour. And in response to this, there's an Instagram called Public Lands Hate You has started shaming this bad behaviour. And there's one, Jacqueline's harp, had some time to stop and see and smell the flowers with the girls and their friends today. Love-hate relationship with social media is big good and bad purpose, but the past few days I've learned a little break is good. And Public Lands Hate You has replied, here's a new low, not just trampling, not just picking flowers, but pulling out an entire plant roots and all out of the ground. Zoom in, you can still see the dirt dangling from the roots. On top of broadcasting this asinine behaviour to 13,000 followers, this influencer was there with children. What do you think those children learned? Someone please make this stop. And it goes on to say, this original photo has been deleted by the poster, so thank you for your help. Okay, so if you want to follow someone on Instagram, Public Lands Hates You will be naming and shaming dickheads.
The frogbitblog.
Yeah, it's Lanigan. It's sexy Lanigan. Ooh, yeah, it's Lanigan.
And here he is again. We didn't hear him for a month, and we've got him 2 episodes on the run. So thank you for coming back in. Did you cycle, jog, sprint?
I cycled again, and it was beautiful. It was very, very nice. I saw my friendly horses that were on the way, which is always nice. So I actually FaceTimed my family, and the horses were sticking their heads from over my shoulders and stuff.
Oh wow! Well, so
nice.
you stop and have this conversation.
If I've got a little bit of extra time, then I tend to stop and pat them on the head and move on.
Oh, you didn't? Did you feed them?
No, I didn't feed them actually, because there's quite a few dangers fraught with that, and obviously.
Yes,
so.
Interestingly, I've got a student that's making a documentary. She's into horses and stuff. She's making a warning documentary that you've got to be careful what you feed horses, because apparently one of the friend of a friend's baby foal choked because someone threw a full turnip in or something, and it choked to death on a turnip.
Not nice at all.
But wow, in my day, sounding older, people used to give horses sugar lumps.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Well,
I don't know. Probably a lot.
There's a lot wrong with that, isn't there? But,
Probably a lot. Yeah.
But there's all sorts of stuff like poo bags, isn't there? People throw there's loads of horses choking on poo bags. And an interesting one while on the subject is ragwort, because that causes lots of controversy around horse owners, because this thing came out that ragwort is poisonous for horses, and there's loads of ragwort in fields. And when I was working for one of the wildlife trusts, one of the jobs that we had was to go to this place and actually cut out all the ragwort, which is a shame, and I wasn't happy about it, because it was ragwort's very good for bees and butterflies and stuff. But because they were trying to create a wildlife meadow, they had to let horses in to graze on it, and they wouldn't do it when the horses were there. But I've heard so many mixed reports about ragwort that it's all right if horses eat it as part of a calorie-controlled diet, as they say. It's when it's like if they have it in winter and there's too much of it in a bundle of hay, is that there's a certain level of toxicity. But you ask any horse owner and they say, oh no, ragwort, got to keep away from it.
Didn't even know that was a thing.
Yes, because it was low. I mean, last year seemed because of the hot weather, I think last year seemed like a particularly good a good season for ragwort. But it's funny that you notice, actually, and I notice a lot cycling and being a gardener now and allotment, just how the seasonal weather, depending on what type of spring and what type of winter it is, really sort of shows which wildflower is going to do well that year. You know, sometimes like last year it was ragwort, and sometimes it's like forget-me-nots or dandelions. It's weird, you know.
You get more of an awareness of the seasons, don't you? Because I think that's why I really want to get my allotment as soon as possible, because then coupled with the cycling, you kind of get the awareness that you should have as a human being of the different seasons changing and the different foods you should be eating and the different adaptations you make to your daily life.
Completely. Yeah, yes. I mean, it is that, like, trying to eat seasonal as well is really important. But you're right, and this is something I found a lot easier, because I used to hate winter. I mean, it's not my favourite season with being an outdoorsy nature person, but living in a city, you're a bit immune to the seasons other than this cold and dark, whereas in the country and on a bike ride, you actually can appreciate them more. Definitely. You know, autumn up our way is absolutely beautiful with the woods, but even winter has its own beauty, which concrete winter in a town doesn't have the same beauty
No,
as
agreed.
winter in the woods.
A bit more jealous of your commute because mine's a little bit more urban than that.
Is yours a bit more on the... Have you got cycle paths then?
Yes, pretty much all cycle paths, about sort of 5 to 10% of it on the road, so not too bad.
Oh, you pass a horse though. That must.
I
be
do pass a horse.
rural,
That's the only rule bit. But to be honest, it's like even the horse paddock element is like sandwiched between a metro line and a main carriageway. So it's quite interesting. But yeah.
Well, something interesting happened last week with my students. Again, with students because they're doing documentary, and I was going around asking them. I don't teach this class much, so I don't know the students that well. But I stopped and was asking them individually what they were doing. And the first lad went, "Oh, I'm doing a documentary on radical feminism," and I went, "Oh, right, okay." In what sense? He said, "Well, I think it's bad." He said, "I think it's bad. I think all normal feminism is okay, but radical feminism is really bad." And I was thinking, where does a 16-year-old boy get these ideas from? Because when I was 16, we weren't that enlightened to these things. In fact, when I was 16 to 18 at school, we still had different sessions, and the girls, they did needlework and we did woodwork or whatever, and there was still, at our school, was still an expectation for boys to do better. It's funny to think back then, there was and that's, I don't know when that started changing in the 80s or something, and obviously for you, being a lot younger, you're probably, I don't know, you're probably not aware that it was ever like that. But the second one, when I'd asked that lad, and the one next to him sat a few feet apart, so they weren't copying. He went, "Oh, I'm doing one on masculine toxic masculinity." And I said, "Oh, you've seen the Gillette advert?" And he went, "Oh, yeah, I really love that." And that was interesting, just this juxtaposition. And have you seen the Gillette?
I have, yeah. Was that his main inspiration, was it? Or...
Yes. I don't know, actually. I don't know whether that was the starting point. I don't know. But a lot of men have been offended by that. What do you think of that?
When I saw it, I did see it sort of not in the context of the uproar. I just kind of saw it for just what it was standalone. I thought it was... how can I put this properly? It's kind of... I thought it was quite heavy-handed, but I certainly didn't feel like insulted by it or anything like that. But I don't tend to be quite as reactionary, I feel, as maybe people that are slightly younger than me.
Do you think it's an age thing?
Possibly. I mean, even with me growing up in school, there was still like the expectation, not the expectation, but the kind of the opinion that there was like sort of the jobs for the lads and then the jobs for the girls and things like that. And that was even being in schools in the 90s. And I still think it probably goes on a bit now. Obviously, this big push towards inclusivity and sort of an even playing field for all is something that neither of us can deny is a fantastic thing. But obviously, you do get quite a lot of sort of polarising views and quite extreme views in the melting pot, and eventually I think we'll end up coming out the other end of this in a kind of a much more stable way, but at the moment we're kind of in a state of quite a lot of sort of defiance and
it's interesting the whole gender thing, isn't it? Because you've got two young daughters, and are you aware that you treat them according to their gender? Because it's probably hard not to in some ways, isn't it? You know what I mean? You don't treat them as gender neutral, do you? I mean, in the sense that how you dress them and the colours and the toys that they play with.
I mean, we do give them a certain sense of direction on what they want to do, certainly, and it does happen to be that they have kind of fulfilled a few stereotypes, definitely, no problem at all, but I do tend to in saying that, we still read like sort of child versions of comic books about superheroes and stuff like that, and one of my daughters loves superheroes, and that's fantastic. But I mean, it's kind of like, I think you got to let it's mostly about educating them to have their own opinions, their own identity, and letting them follow that route, whatever that may be, and being as open, and as a parent being as open-minded and willing to talk about anything at all as much as possible, and that could be anything from gender to sex to anything else.
Good. I mean, the other thing is as well is that as a parent, you're not the only influence on the kids' lives, are you? So even if you brought your daughters up to not be feminine, if you brought them up very sort of gender neutral, there's all these other influences and all the kids that they play with and the parents and stuff that are gonna affect that, isn't it? I'm just amazed about, I remember just after that Gillette advert came out and just reading some of the comments on just how threatened a lot of men felt by it, and I was trying to work out what made men angry about. And I mean, all right, it's an advert and it's trying to sell something, so you've got to be slightly cynical about it, but what makes men so angry about that? I mean, I don't get it. Is it men that are just uncomfortable in their own masculinity that feel really threatened by it?
I mean, there's bigger questions there. I think it's like actually starting. You obviously were saying the problem with masculinity is like, what is that? What anymore? Like, what was it? What is it? Is it different than what it is now? It's very hard to define. Is it biological or is it a set of constructs? It's like it's very.
Well,
very
I mean,
complicated,
I presume it's both, isn't it? Because there's a biological element, because we are still apes in some ways, aren't we? But as we develop and as we can replace that with a sort of an intellectual overlay in a way. There is the biological element always simmering under there, isn't there? But if we're trying to develop as a species, then I think we do have to get beyond the primal, which is what it's about, isn't it? We do have all these primal feelings, but it's about then going recognizing it as a primal feeling and going, well, is this the best way forward? Being able to then intellectualize it all.
I mean, I've constantly made reference to like those kind of like primal feelings and things like that, and there's millions of years of evolution and things like that battling with it. We've mentioned it before. It's something like again with eating meat and things like that. I actually kind of edging towards like it feels like my body needs it, my brain wants it, and things like that. But then the moral aspect of it, I have an issue with.
Yeah.
So it's quite. It makes the kind of what I define as masculinity makes me quite conflicted in a way.
Yeah, but it is recognising it, isn't it? It's recognise. That's the first part of this, isn't it? Is recognising those primal urges and saying, is it okay? Is it constructive? Can we move on? Can we evolve beyond this?
Yeah. Yeah, and see what comes out the other end, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that was a bit deep.
It wasn't it?
Oh, well, thank you for coming in once again. I've enjoyed that.
Me too.
Cheers.
No worries.
It's sexy Lanigan. Ooh, yeah. It's Lanigan. Ooh, yeah, it's Lanigan.
Right, a suspected rhino poacher has been trampled on by an elephant, then eaten by a pride of lions in Kruger National Park, South Africa. Accomplice poachers told the victim's family that they're being killed by an elephant on Tuesday. A search party struggled to find the body, but eventually found a human skull and a pair of trousers. Oh, okay. The managing executive of the park extended his condolences to the family. Entering Kruger National Park illegally and on foot is not wise, he said. It holds many dangers, and this incident is evidence of that. So he was trampled on and then eaten. It's like the animal kingdom was ganging up on them, wasn't it? Well, you know what we say to that.
Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, I hope it hurt, ha 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 ha. Ooh, good, I hope it hurt a lot. Hey! Ooh, good, I hope it hurt, ha 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 ha. Ooh, good, I hope it hurt a lot. Hey!
Right, some climate stuff. You might have heard this, but I'm just going to play this clip from George Monbiot when he appeared on the Frankie Boyle show the other week.
What would you say people should do, George, if they can do one thing?
I mean, what we have to do is some big structural, political, economic stuff. What we're being told to do is change your cotton buds and all these sort of pathetic micro-consumerist bollocks, which just isn't going to get us anywhere. There are one or two things you can do as a consumer which do make change. Switch to a plant-based diet. That's one. Big change, because animal farming has this massive environmental impact. Another one, stop flying. Yeah, but beyond that, actually everything we have to do is change the system. We have to overthrow this system which is eating the planet with perpetual growth. I mean, since when was GDP a sensible measure of human welfare? And yet everything that governments want to do is to try to boost GDP. Now, people like the OECD or the World Bank who say, we're not asking for a lot of growth, just 3% a year. That means doubling in 24 years. Yeah, we're bursting through all the environmental boundaries and screwing the planet already. You want to double it? Double all that? Double it again? Keep doubling it? It's madness. We've got to find a better way of measuring human welfare than perpetual growth. We've got to start ramping down all fossil fuel production and leave fossil fuels in the ground. And at the same time, and this is a nice bit of it, it turns out that through massive rewilding, ecological restoration, you can draw down a load of the carbon dioxide we've already produced. Huge amounts, allowing the forests to come back, the marshes to come back, the sea floor to recover from trawling and stuff. They draw down carbon dioxide. and can take us a long way towards stopping climate breakdown at the same time as stopping ecological breakdown. There's time, but we can't do it by just pissing around at the margins of the problem. We've got to go straight to the heart of capitalism and overthrow it.
And he's spot on, isn't he? We can't have perpetual growth on a finite planet. It's not rocket science, is it? We need to change the system. And talking of changing the system, those naughty people from Extinction Rebellion were at it the other week. I don't know if you saw, they were in the House of the Parliament in the gallery, and they stripped off and pressed their arses against the plexiglass. It's not like we haven't already seen enough arseholes in the House of Parliament, but there you go. Well done, people. And from April the 15th onwards, the climate rebellion action's taking place all over the UK. So think about getting involved, helping out, making donations for the campaign, whatever you fancy doing. Now, here's some good news. A global transition to the exclusive use of renewable energy sources is not only possible, but also cheaper and safer than reliance on fossil fuels and nuclear energy, according to a new study from the La Perrenta University of Technology in Germany. The study claims that the rapid development of renewable energy sources and energy storage technology will likely make it possible for the entire planet to reduce its CO2 emissions to zero even earlier than the current 2050 deadline. Yeah. The report is the first of its kind to suggest a cost-effective, all-inclusive global roadmap to keep average global warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is also the first planet-wide climate change resistance plan that suggests not using carbon capture and sequestration techniques to mechanically remove CO2 from the atmosphere. Brilliant. According to the model, in 2050, some 69% of the world's energy would come from solar panels, 18% from wind power, 3% from hydropower, and 6% from bioenergy. Fossil fuels and nuclear power would not be needed at all. Cars, planes and ships would run on carbon-neutral synthetic fuels produced from hydrogen and carbon dioxide. The study indicates that its sweeping plans for all sectors, energy production, heating, traffic, water systems and others, could be funded by the savings accrued from giving up fossil fuels in its entirety. And the team of researchers said that energy revolution is a matter of political will, not of technology or financing. So we've got to put pressure on our governments, on those people in power, to actually make this happen. And the great thing about this, the team dedicated the study to Swedish activist Greta Thunberg and the global Fridays for Future movement she has inspired, which is the students marching, going on strike once a month on a Friday. So well done. It's great to see Greta Thunberg getting some recognition. Right, so I got Steve in, who's from the Defend Dewley Hill campaign. I mentioned it before, so here I am. I'm having a chat with Steve in the studio. Right, so I've got Steve here with me. I'm going to call him Stephen X because he's a bit of a political activist, eco-warrior, though you're probably more a bit of a bird watcher than an eco-warrior.
I am really, yes, yeah. I love my nature.
So you're more into shrikes and strikes, as would say.
I don't want to crow on about the about the activism, as I'll make a bit of a tit of myself. That's it, I've run out of my puns now.
Okay, let's start the serious stuff. Right, the reason why Steve's on is because you're doing something to do with an open cast mine, which I was shocked that we're still even considering open cast mines.
Just in our village, Throckley, which is right on the edge of Newcastle, Banks Corporation are planning on opening open cast mine, and they've been doing it recently. They've opened a few in County Durham.
Right.
Believe it or not, they even put a plan application in for one in Druridge Bay.
Oh yes, I heard about that one. Druridge Bay, if you don't know it, listeners, is up our way, up the coast, and it's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? It's one of the most beautiful beaches. Yeah. But they're doing them all over the place. They're still doing open cast mines. Exactly,
and the government directive is that they're going to phase out fossil fuels by 2025, and yet in 2019, this company are still looking to mine coal from I mean, it's in Newcastle, you know what I mean? It's not in the middle of nowhere.
And it's all open cast, isn't it? That's the
is.
issue. Not that it makes any better when they burn it, but not only does it pollute the climate, that it also buggers the landscape.
Yeah, completely. And we've seen examples of it. Northumberlandia, which is in Newcastle, is a restored version. And they'll go on about how, they'll put money back into their landscape and everything. But the bottom line is, it's never the same as it was when they started.
Yeah.
And in terms of wildlife, it takes years and years for that to come back to that land. So that's just simply from a wildlife perspective, it's completely destructive.
And you're doing a bit of are you doing a bit of the wildlife, the bird monitor? Are you doing your Birdman bit? I did a bit of a list of all the species that I've seen, and not just birds, but I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. I thought of another one, but there are otters in the Dewley Burn, which runs through it, because it's Dewley Hill. It's called Dewley, right.
and there are otters there. And they made a big comeback over the last 10 or 15 years in places with, where the rivers aren't as polluted as they used to be. And it's, for all aspects of wildlife, it's unbelievable that they should be using this particular site.
And shocking, but the fact is they're still allowed. I mean, does it have to go to a public inquiry?
Yeah,
then,
there's a live planning proposal in at the moment, and there was a big protest outside Newcastle Civic Centre the other night.
Right.
It was led by, a few different organisations. The Green Party were there.
Yes.
The bloke, Jamie Driscoll, who's up to be the Labour candidate for North of Tyne Mayor.
Right.
He was there as well, and there was a lot of environmental protesters, and again also the specific Dewley Hill protest group that's basically Frockley.
So what's the chances of things like that being stopped? Is it good?
I think it feels the right moment, although they've got a few past in the last few years. One of the things that happened, we went inside the Civic Centre the other night for the meeting of the council, and the Labour representatives, who have been a bit reluctant to pass green laws really, they have declared a climate emergency. So and they actually just did that a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, so
it's like, you know what I mean? If they then in a few weeks' time pass this proposal, because I mean, apart from the wildlife issue, the main issue is coal. They're trying to phase it out. It causes untold damage to the environment. There's global warming and warnings about its destructive nature over and over again, and then they're going to dig some more coal up.
Well, so you're actually involved in the campaign then, are you?
I mean, to be honest, my wife particularly leads it. I mean, she's got the she set up the group. She set up the Facebook page, Defend Dewley Hill. Defend Dewley Hill, and
sounds like she's been locked up though, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what
Free Dewley Hill.
My daughter actually said, "Oh, so who's Dewley then?" But it's it's a place.
All right, brilliant. And presumably, what they do then is they just scrape the surface of the land off, do they?
But it's quite a big area of land.
What is it at the moment?
But it's a farm.
Right.
It's fields, and I don't know what the situation with the farmer in the middle is. Probably getting a big
load of cash.
And it covers, and it goes right on into North Warbottle, where there's a massive school.
Right.
Warbottle's the biggest comprehensive in the city and all
right.
that, and so all the effects of it happening.
Coal dust,
noise from like 7 in the morning till 10 at night. They said about sort of explosions and all sorts of reasons why it's there.
Well, good. It's good to see people making a stand. And I was amazed when you told me, and I remember hearing one about Cumbria that's just been passed for open cast coal, and it's like you said, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? That they're still. We know we've got to stop fossil fuel burning. Fair enough if they want to just wind down a few coal mines, but actually starting new stuff.
Totally.
And do they say many jobs are coming? Is that
they
their
say
argument?
they do. They say 50 to 60 jobs, but in terms of those people even coming from Frockley, it's unlikely because there's mines that are closing where they've got the trained people who it's much more likely because it's cheaper and quicker for them.
Right.
So if there's a couple of jobs for people from Frockley, that's what it'll come to.
Right.
And they say they're going to donate 50,000 to the local Exactly, and we've worked out it's about £8 per person in Throckley for all the years of devastation and clearing problems.
Right. Well, well, let's hope something good comes of it. Well, if will you come back and let us know what happens?
I will.
Things like this are a real test case, aren't they? Really.
Definitely.
I know it's not just about national government; it's about local government. But it will be interesting to see if Labour do anything. Because traditionally, they haven't been that good on the environment.
That's
have
a
they,
bit
Labour?
they were saying last night. I mean, it's good that Jamie Driscoll bloke, because his whole Labour policy is like putting the green into the red, like making that at the heart of all. And what the Green Party people, to be fair, were arguing the other night, that the whole idea of creating jobs is going to mean nothing in a dead planet. Nobody's going to have a job. So it's more fundamental. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, thank you for coming on Stephen X.
Yeah.
We keep your profile anonymous.
Yes, I will have. Obviously, I have got a balaclava on.
Right. Cheers, then.
Yeah. Bye.
The frogbitblog.
And laugh at the twats. Anyway, I'm gonna tell you this. And laugh at the twats. Tell it like it is.
Right, remember, this is one of my new features. I've only done it once before, because these days I spend my time being so bloody reasonable and polite and not slagging people off. Well, in this section, I do, and I allowed myself to do it, and I don't feel guilty about it, and I don't think you should feel guilty listening to it either. This is my 2 minutes hate. If you're not sure what that is, if you read 1984... in Orwell's 1984, there was a part where everyone watched the screen and yelled at the screen for 2 minutes, but I'm doing it, and it's called Laugh at the Twats, isn't it? Right, this is, and I'm going to be insulting, and I'm going to call people out. This is from a Lincolnshire Live, a local online newspaper. Residents demand action after millions of sycamore seeds rained down on their homes and gardens. One woman said she collected 3 buckets of seedlings in a day. People in the picturesque village of Navanby are being plagued by falling sycamore seeds which clog gutters and grow up from gravel drives and in between paving slabs. With its traditional stone cottages and leafy lanes, it's no wonder the Sunday Times named the village near Lincoln of one of Britain's top places to live. Yet resident Liz Ray said the aerial invasion of winged seed pods is making life a misery for her and her neighbours. Retired nurse Mrs. Ray, 72, insisted the trees are a nuisance which needs tackling. We residents are inundated with sycamore seedlings from giant trees in a small strip of land, and it's no exaggeration to say that the seeds rain down in their millions. You end up with them sprouting in between the gaps in the pavements, in your flower beds, in the guttering, in plant pots and on drive. You cannot use weed killer, as that would destroy all the shrubs and plants that you actually want in your garden. Right, where to start with this other than to say, get a fucking life, you sad people. Is there a finer example of first world problems of people getting upset by trees and bits that fall off them, you fucking weirdos? Right, and in the second bit, Brexit. I've not talked much about Brexit, all right? Some decent people vote leave, and I don't want to tar everyone with the same brush. I have friends that are sort of Lexit voters and stuff like that. And some people have legitimate grievances with the way this country has treated them. But that's it. It's with this country, and it's with successive Conservative government. So I can see, which is why I've sort of stayed a bit out of the Brexit debate. But fuck me, it's become a twats charter, hasn't it? It has given twats the excuse to be twats. Leave means leave. And there's lots of examples of non-white people or people speaking with funny accents being told to get out the country because leave means leave. And this week, we've had a gang of twats that decided the best way to achieve Brexit is to blockade an Aldi depot. Yeah, that's it. They blockaded an Aldi depot. Why? Because it's German, yeah, and we don't want Germans here anymore. And guess what? One of them turned up to the blockade with a fucking German motorhome going, buy British, yeah? Sorry, this is a twat's charter. There's now a British couple that now live in Spain and have flown back for the launch of the Brexit party because they want Britain out of Europe and they want to end freedom of movement. Even though they've got freedom of movement to live in Spain, they want to end freedom of movement. Twats charter. There, I feel better now. Thank you. That's all I've got time for this episode. Thank you very much once again for listening, all of you. Thank you very much for Steve X for coming on, and I'm going to get him back on when we hear more about how the campaign has gone. And thanks to Len, as usual. Enjoy your week, and I will see you in a fortnight. Enjoy your week, I'll see you in a fortnight. Enjoy your fortnight, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Okay, bye.
Bitblog. From Bitblog.